Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the ABM All By Myself podcast, episode 18. You heard that right. We are 2 away from 20. It will be happening this Saturday. I think that's what, like the Monster Truck Sunday. That's what I should do. I should probably go see if I could be a monster truck announcer. That'd be fucking rad. But you know, guys, huge milestone. What a time to be alive. This Saturday, episode 20. Couldn't do it without you. And the rocket fuel that's propelling us all the way into outer space is the liking, the commenting, the subscribing, and if you do feel so inclined, always remember, yes, you could ring my bell and get notified every single day when these go live, because they do go live daily. However, the time is going to vary. So just to make sure you're on the cutting edge of awareness, and maybe you have a game with your friends. I'm assuming all of you play this game. Who can share the podcast first? So when you get that podcast, the first feeling you have is, fuck, I lost. But then it's like, but we all win because we're sharing with each other and we get to watch this podcast. Thank you guys so much as always. So in this first story I'm going to tell, I'm shooting to tell 2 of them today. It has to do with pogs. If you're aware of what pogs are, I'm going to tell you stuff you already know, and if you don't, I'm going to give you some insight. So pogs originated in Hawaii, and what the Hawaiianers would do is on the bottom of any lid, typically you'll find a thick paper insert, a circular insert that fits perfectly up into that lid, and that helps to seal the contents of the bottle inside and to keep it fresh. So what they started doing is they would take these inserts out. There's one shiny side and one dull side, so you could differentiate. They would stack them on top of each other, facing the same direction, and then using the lid of whatever bottle they were from, they would slam it down onto these inserts, and the goal was to flip them. If you flip them, you win the game. And there's 2 ways of playing it. You could play for fun, which is fun, or you could play for keeps, which is really fun, which means, let's just say theoretically, I'm sitting in front of you at a pog tournament, and we each put one of our pogs down. A slammer would represent like what the top of the bottle would be, the cap. It's a heavier duty pog used to slam down and flip the more thicker paper pogs. And we'd each put one in, both facing down, and then I would go first, throw my slammer down, and if I flipped them both over, I would keep them. Hence, playing for keeps. So if you came to the tournament with 50 pogs and you lose 50 times in a row, you're leaving pogless, right? So the goal is to acquire as many as you can, and it's really competitive, and that's what I enjoyed about it. I like the competitive aspect. I'm like a collector at heart, so I like to have a lot of whatever I'm into. And they came with these tubes that you could fill up with like either 50 or 100 pogs. If you were balling out of control, you had like 100 slammers in one of these tubes. And if you were a gangster, you were playing for keeps with slammers, meaning instead of 2 pogs going into the pile, you were putting 2 slammers. I mean, these slammers costed like anywhere from $2 to $20. So, I mean, you had some real rebellious shit going on in the early 90s with pogs. So to bring us to the story, one thing that I would do, and I'm not proud of it, but I noticed at the comic book store that was selling pogs that they would hand me the tube to look at. I would turn around, I would look at these things, and then I would basically just give it back, and they would put it away without even counting them or anything. And I thought, well, I don't necessarily have the means to have a pimp collection, but if I were to take like 1 or 2 every now and then, I could add those to mine, and then I would be building up quite the fucking collection here. And I guess, I didn't think that I'm stealing and this is a bad thing. I just thought the logic that I just told you. So every time I would go into this comic book store, which could be every day, I would take a couple slammers, I would take a couple of the pogs, and nobody ever said anything. So one day, it's me and a buddy of mine. His name is Sean. And what happened before this day is he had come to my house with some brand new limited edition Street Fighter holographic pogs. He agreed to play for keeps, so I didn't coerce anything, and I pretty much won all of them from him. It was a sad moment, but at the end of the day, if you're going to come to my house showing off your pogs and you want to play me for keeps, the 8-year-old me was eating your fucking lunch. So I won all of his pogs. He went back to his house, told his mom. His mom came over to my house, told my mom that I had just not stolen, but essentially we were gambling, which isn't good, and the result of it was her son losing all of his his brand new pogs, and she wanted me to give them back. So I did. And then on top of that, the next day I told my buddy, hey, I'm sorry that happened, dude. We're friends. We're not going to play for keeps anymore, but I'm going to get you a brand new slammer today, and all we got to do is walk to the comic book store. So I don't remember if he had gone with me before. It was typically something I would like ride my bike by myself, and it was probably a half a mile up the road, so not very far. So we went together that day, and there must have been like a pog tournament or something where they would set up tables out in the parking lot. They would put these mouse pads all over them, and then if you could hear it, my dog is, can you hear that? Walter. Oh, stay hydrated, buddy. I'm sorry for the interruption, but it's so adorable, I'm going to keep it in anyways. So at the comic book store this one day, they must have been having a POG tournament because there was tables in the parking lot with these mouse pads where they were like slammer platforms or whatever you would call them. Very, very competitive. I'm telling you, this was no fucking joke. I'm sure there's people that look at POGs and just think this is an innocent, fun game that kids play. No, this shit was serious. So there was a bunch of people, with that being said, inside of the comic book store, which there usually wasn't. I would say 5 people or so inside of a comic book store felt crowded, but this day it was just packed to the brim from the window to the wall with little kids. But I couldn't help it. I told my buddy I was going to get him a slammer. I wanted to get a few for myself, and so I was going to do what I was going to do. So I asked for a tube. I take it. I turn around. I look through them. I pick out a few that I like. I put those in my hand. I keep my hand closed, and with my other hand, I give back the tube to the lady. Typically, like always, she just puts it right back in the display case. I say, oh, thank you so much. And then I just walk out with Sean. And, I'm going to wait until I'm at least out of sight to show Sean the treasures that we have come across today. But we got about 5 steps out. And next thing I know, I'm hearing this loud siren. And the lady's out. She's yelling for me. She got a kid with her. They're both pointing at me. And then I turn. And then I'm like, me? You want me? And they're like, yeah, come back. And then I looked the other way where me and Sean were walking, and Sean's fucking bolting. He's like, fuck this. I didn't know it was going to be like this. I need to leave. And you know what? I could respect that. He ain't going to go down for some shit he didn't do. Right on. So I go back into the comic book store, and the lady tells me that this kid that she's with just saw me put 2 slammers into my pocket without paying for them, which, newsflash, I actually took 4. So when she told me 2, I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I'll admit to that. So I told her that, yes, I did take them. I'm sorry. I forgot I had them in my hand. Whatever kind of bullshit excuse an 8-year-old gives. And then she said, well, that's not good. We're not, we don't call cops, but we need to have your parents come and pick you up, and they need to pay for the product that you stole. So I said, oh no, well, my mom is at work. My dad is at work. So they ended up calling I think they called one of my parents that ended up saying, why don't you call his grandpa, and his grandpa can come pick him up. And my grandpa was like the scary dude, you didn't want to do anything wrong around my grandpa at all. It was very serious, very fast with him. So I was thinking, oh shit, this is going to be bad, So I'm waiting in the back office at the comic book store, and my grandpa finally shows up, and the lady tells him that, I stole these 2 slammers or whatever. And I remember it being $3. So they must have been like $1.50 each. He had to pay the $3. And then while he was in there, he said, this isn't right. Nobody should steal. Your mom and dad don't steal. And I remember, and I could be wrong, but my mom told me a story about when she was younger and she had an incident where she actually did steal something. She got caught. And so I just said it. I said, well, actually, my mom did steal something. And he said, that's not the point. We don't steal, and pretty much got very firm with me. I don't remember the exacts of what he said, but I don't think he enjoyed me interrupting him by letting him know that my mom had stolen something when she was younger. So he took me home. I don't remember the punishment necessarily, but if there was one beyond me never being able to play with pogs again. My mom and dad told me, you cannot have pogs. This is bad. If you're not able to play with them without needing to steal them and shit, it ain't for you. So what I did, like any 8-year-old kid, is my grandma lived upstairs. Shout out to 420 Granny from the previous episodes, if you remember. Rest in peace. But she lived upstairs, so I went upstairs and asked her, hey, do you mind if I store some of my toys up here? And she said, of course, honey. So my grandma and me worked alongside to make sure that I was able to just have these pogs at my disposal when I needed. I'd go get them in the morning so I could take them to school. Because another thing that I did, and I'm not proud of all this necessarily, but I was in third grade, and there was an eighth grader that would actually buy these slammers off of me, probably rip me off, but it didn't matter because I was buying ice cream with it, and I was supplying the eighth graders with all of their high-end slammers. So, I couldn't just let that business drown and die, so I had to maintain it. So shout out to you, Grandma, for being the OG, to let it keep happening. And I forget like when pogs fizzled out, but if my memory serves me right, I think I got into hacky sack after that. And then after hacky sack, I started skateboarding, riding my bike, and then we actually talked about all that. And then I got into drumming. So yeah, pogs fizzled out, but that was my early on experience breaking the law. I had this whole empire built, this operation, this ring for slammers for the eighth graders. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. And the second story I'm going to tell, I'll try to make this, we're at like 10 minutes. So let's see if we can bust out a quick 4-minute and 40-second story. And I also want to freestyle a little bit, so stay tuned. But this one happens when I was, I would say I was 14 years old, and paintballing was huge. And if you're not familiar, paintballs, they're pretty much guns, but instead of bullets, they shoot balls filled with paint, and they hurt pretty bad. It feels like getting punched pretty hard, only by something very small. And me and my buddy Nick, rest in peace to Nick, passed away a few years ago, so rest in peace, dude. But me and him, we had a little sleepover at his crib, and then his dad, bright and early in the morning, was going to take us into Corona to SC Fields, I believe is what, or SC Village for all of you that would know what that is. She was going to take us there where we would meet some other buddies of ours, and we were going to have a fun day of paintballing. So one thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to prepare ourselves mentally. And what better way to prepare yourself mentally for a paintball battle than to shoot each other with paintballs? However, this can't go down in the house. That's kind of messy. And there wasn't much of a backyard, if I remember, where he lived in downtown Long Beach. So we went out into the front yard. We loaded up the truck with all of our gear and shit. And then we took the guns out. And right there in front of the house, in his driveway, we shot each other in the leg. It hurt like hell. We were ramped up. We were yelling. We were all hoorah'd out. And then I saw a bird across the street on a wire. And don't worry, guys. Birds are my favorite animals. Always have been. I would never shoot a bird with a paintball, but I just aimed at it. And I was playing like in my head, like, what if I'm on the field right now and I'm looking at an enemy on the other side of the field and I'm trying to shoot him, And I was visualizing that, and I was aiming, and I was looking through my scope, and then I just put the gun away. So we get into the truck. My buddy's dad comes out, and to give you a little bit of a backstory on the path we're taking, so the story, it even has more visualness to it, is in Long Beach, they have something called the traffic circle, and there's like 5 streets that feed into it, the largest one being Pacific Coast Highway. And if you're coming from downtown, it's a huge hill that you go down. It's probably like a 3-mile drive or so. And not until about the half mile before you get to this huge traffic circle can you actually see it, where you're at the right incline and you can look down at it. So they lived right near this traffic circle. So the majority of the trip was going to be going through that, getting onto the freeway, and going about 30 minutes inland into Corona. So we get into the car, and right away, we haven't even got to the main street that the traffic circle is on yet, but there's already one cop behind us. And we don't know why. We're not thinking much of it. It's like 7:30 on a Saturday or Sunday morning. We're who cares? There's a cop. If anything, that's good to know. It means that we're on safe streets right now. So a couple seconds goes by, and all of a sudden another cop is behind us. And my buddy's dad is thinking, he says out loud, "Oh, the piggies must be going to the barn," cracking some fucking dumb joke like that. And we all giggle at it, and we find humor in the fact that there's cops right behind us. And then he makes a right onto the main street, and there was probably a couple cars in front of us at this point, but then he makes a right onto the main street that the traffic circle sits at the bottom of, and there is no cars anywhere. And you can see pretty far ahead, and there's no cars anywhere. And now there's like 3 or 4 cops behind us. And my buddy's dad is starting to get, I think, a little bit nervous at this point. He's thinking, I don't know why there's so many cops behind us. And we're like, yeah, well, us neither, you know what I mean? So we keep driving, and the cops keep piling on and piling on. There's probably 10 cops behind us, no exaggeration, at towards the end of them pulling us over. And then once we get to the point where we can see the actual traffic circle, which is humongous, it is completely blocked off. There's cops circling the whole thing. They all have guns out. They're all pointing them up at where we're at, because the goal was to get us to a point where they could see us from the traffic circle, and then they pulled us over. So we're getting pulled over, and my buddy's dad is confused as fuck. He doesn't know what he's doing, wrong. I mean, he just woke up. He's drinking some coffee, taking his kid and his friend to go play paintball? What the fuck is happening here? It must be, a joke, or it must be a mistake. So the cops, they don't even come to the car like a typical traffic stop. They just right away with the loud phones go, "Driver, get out of the car." I don't know how that sounded. Hopefully it didn't sound horrible, but they say, "Driver, get out of the car." My buddy's dad is, he's yelling out of the car with his hands out. For what? What am I doing? And they're like, "Get out of the car." And they all have their guns out and shit. And they're like, "Get out now." And then so he gets out of the car. He's like, "Fuck this, I ain't getting shot." He gets out of the car. They make him walk backwards and lay down on the ground with his hands up. He's still giving him a hard time because he's confused why the fuck he's laying on the ground at 7:30 in the morning on a main street. So then they get they say, "Passenger, get out of the car. Front seat passenger, get out of the car." My buddy gets out of the car, does the same thing, lays down. And then they say, "Backseat passenger." So I get out of the car and I lay down. And then they start searching us. They search my buddy's dad. He has nothing on him. They go to my buddy and they say, "Hey, do you have any weapons, drugs, anything that we need to be worried about?" And he says, "Well, I have a pocket knife." And he says that, my fucking heart drops. I go, "Oh my God, he got a weapon on him. We're all going down. We're going to go to jail for this." I'm just paranoid. Like, this is a pretty fucking massive moment going down. And I feel like a knife is only going to be bad for this. So then they get to me. I have nothing on me. They end up letting us, I believe they handcuff us. They take us over, sit us down on a curb, and we're just sitting there. And while we're sitting there, they're searching the front of the truck. Takes them a couple of minutes. It's a little Toyota like with an extended cab. So they're going through that for a few minutes. And then they get to the back. They open up the back of the truck, and right away, like half of the dudes back, or half of the cops start laughing. One of them pulls out a gun, a paintball gun, and says, "Guys, it's just a paintball gun again." So I'm sure this is something that had happened before. And so they walk over and they say, "Hey, we got a call today from your neighbor saying that you were shooting each other or something out in front, and then you picked up a long range, or you were pointing guns at each other that were long-range rifles. Then you pointed them at his front window and then pointed it above his house and shot over his house," which we did not shoot over his house. But he said that he felt as though we were threatening him and we were trying to basically murder him. Understandable. If I saw a kid pointing a fucking gun, I didn't know what it was, I might call the cops too. So the cop that's talking to us says, "Now, as far as a ticket, I'm thinking this could probably just be a warning." And then he asked the cops around him, "What do you guys think?" And then one of them had to say, "If we let them go, we got to let them all go. We have to give them a ticket." So they gave us the tickets. I believe it was like community service and our parents had to pay a fee. We ended up still going paintballing. We didn't lose our ability to go paintballing. I mean, it's a healthy activity for kids, but we definitely, we're punished and we're not able just to be hanging out with our paintball guns in front of the house after that anymore. That was out of bounds. So there you go. Those were the two stories about my run-ins with the law, or maybe just breaking the law. Only one of them had cops involved. I do have a few more I can share with you in later episodes, but for now, why don't we just do a little freestyle? You guys have been enjoying them. I'm feeling half confident, so why don't we just give it a shot? We'll give it all we got. I like this beat. Shit's hot. Like a flaming hot Cheeto. I really like Doritos. Last night I heated up a couple of taquitos. Mix it up with some sour cream and the salsa. I'm like, damn, I'm an imposter. Cause I really wanted pasta, but I didn't have it. I just had some noodles without water and a magnet. Why I need a magnet? I don't know I need a magnet, damn it. Oh well, it happened. Right next to me, sitting is my dog. He's like, "Hey, what's up, dude? Can we go for a walk?" I'm saying, okay, let me just really quick record this so I can then import it and then I can download it so you can enjoy it. I kind of made that rhyme a little bit. I kind of made import and enjoy rhyme a little bit. That's something to be proud of. That's a top 1,000 freestyle of all time, I would say. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed this whole episode. As always, thank you so much for just joining this journey with me. Have a great rest of your night, and God bless.